The first person wanting to replace Duluth Rep. Liz Olson in the Minnesota House has announced their campaign. Pete Johnson says he wants to replace the four-term rep in the Minnesota House District A seat. That covers the western half of Duluth. And Johnson says he's a firefighter, labor leader, and DFLer. Johnson posted a video today laying out his top 3 issues, including access to health care, housing, and jobs.
If given the opportunity, I will go down to the state capitol with the same dedication, compassion, and drive that I have as a firefighter. It's not about looking at ideologies or party lines, creating sound bites, or pandering for votes. It's about finding solutions and doing the work.
Johnson also thanked Olson for her service. He plans to hold a campaign kickoff event, although it's not clear when yet that might be. There's a live look at Duluth City Hall tonight. That's where the new City Council will have its first regular meeting coming up at 7 o'clock within the hour. The new members were sworn in last week, along with the city's new mayor, Roger Reinert. The councilors will choose their next president and vice president tonight. Also on the agenda, the council is expected to officially accept David Montgomery as the city's new administrator and Jessica Freilich as the new city attorney. Reinert appointed both of them to those roles. Still to come, Governor Tim Walz recommending Minnesota add a new ballot question regarding abortion.